Here we are here at the Ida Public Library. I am Leah.
And I am Chrissy.
And we are going to walk you through how to do character creation for Dungeons & Dragons. If this is something that seems interesting to you, we do have a virtual Dungeons & Dragons program that we are running through Discord. So if once you watch this video and you think you've got an idea of how this all works, you're more than welcome to go ahead and join our Discord channel, and we will be happy to see you in our adventures. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to show you two different ways to create characters. First, we're going to show you the pen and paper way using the book. And this is the player's handbook, which is all you're going to need as a player to make a character. You can get this from the library. We've got a copy here you can check out. And we will go ahead and get started here. You'll need the book. You'll need the character sheet. Then you'll just also need like a pen or a pencil and some dice. You'll need some dice here. And if you don't have dice, you can always use Google. You can just Google what dice you need to roll, and you will be able to roll it off of Google as well. So let's go ahead and we're going to get started.
Okay. For my character, for this one, I picked my class and level is a rogue, and my background is a sage, and then my race is a gnome, and I'm a female character, so my character name is Xana.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead. When you're starting with your character, you're usually going to start off by picking out your race. So you can go ahead and you can open up the book. And that's going to be one of the first sections. We're in part 1, creating a character. And we're at step by step. And you flip to the next pages. And this is where all of the character races are. So you can pick something like an elf, or an orc, or a human, or like we've got right here, we have gnome. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to flip to the page about gnomes. So everything you're going to need to know about your race character is going to be here. So you can pick out you can read more about what gnomes are like. And you can also see what you're going to put on your character sheet, which is going to start right here with gnome traits.
All right, so my intelligence score will increase by 2. So
if you want to, when you got your ability score increase, we're going to roll our ability scores later. So you're going to want to take a note that whatever you roll, you're going to get to add 2 to it. So you can just write that down on the side of your sheet, or you can have a little piece of paper to write that on.
Okay, I'm just going to write it on the sheet for now.
All right. These next couple ones are not super important to your sheet, but they can give you a little bit of an idea of what kind of a character your character is going to be. So you get your age, you get about how long gnomes are going to live and what an adult gnome would be, and your alignment, which is kind of like how good of a person you are.
You can always pick your alignment later after you're done with your character sheet. There's like chaotic, neutral, chaotic, evil, chaotic, or there's like lawful good. There's nine
alignments. And yeah, it's basically just a shorthand for what kind of personality, if your character likes to follow the rules or is a good person or not. The next thing that's going to be important is your size. So different characters might be different sizes. If you're a gnome, your size is going to be small. Okay, all right. So you're going to go ahead, you're going to write your size as small in features and traits. And that mostly is going to matter if whether or not somebody's going to try to pick you up, or if you want to try to fit into a certain space. If you're a small character, you can probably fit into a small space. If you're a large character, you probably can't, but you might be able to carry small characters. Next, we're going to see speed. Speed is how far you can run or walk during a battle round. So gnomes get to a base speed of 25 feet. That's right.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So you go ahead and write that right into your speed box, right in the middle there. Then these last couple ones are going to tell you some of the features that your character has. So if you're a gnome, you have dark vision, which means that you can see up to 60 feet in front of you when it's dark outside. And you can go ahead and write that into your features and traits box. And you can write just dark vision down, or if you want some more notes, you can always write exactly what that means, or you can always just have it written down so you know where to look it up later. Next, gnomes also get Gnome Cunning. That means you've got an advantage on different saving throws. This is if your character gets into a sticky situation and needs to very quickly try to get out of it, you'll have to make a roll to save yourself from that. So you can go ahead, since gnomes get an advantage on these rolls, they get it on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma against magic. That's actually, you're going to put that, again, in your features and traits. You can just go ahead and write down Gnome Cunning. And that's another thing that you can either write all your notes down for it if you want to, or you just know you can check it later. Next, you get to figure out what languages your character speaks. Now, different characters are more likely to know different languages. So if you're on your adventure and our gnome character here is going to find a scroll, it might be written in a language they know or they might not. So gnomes are automatically going to be able to know Common and Gnomish, which you're going to write into your other proficiencies and languages box.
And there are a lot of languages. Like, I think when you're an elf, you definitely know a lot of languages. I think sorcerer is another one where you learn a decent amount of languages as well. So it just varies about what kind of character you are.
Yeah. All right. So the last thing we're going to do for our gnome here is gnomes actually have sub-races, which means there are several different types of gnomes. And you can go ahead and you can read through. Right now, gnomes, it looks like, have two different sub-races. You can be a forest gnome or a rock gnome. And depending on which one you pick, you'll get different extra abilities and skills.
I will be a forest gnome.
All right. So forest gnomes, they get an increased dexterity score by 1, which means they're a little bit faster and more agile. So you can go ahead and write down that you're going to get a +1 to dexterity when we do our ability scores. Forest gnomes also have the natural illusionist feature, which means they get to know a spell. They get to write down on their spell sheet that they know minor illusion. And the spell sheet is going to actually be the last sheet on your character. And you can write that down under cantrips, which is just, cantrips are just a very simple spell that you can cast whenever you want to. So forest gnomes can cast minor illusion. And we'll talk a little bit more about spells later, but just right now, know that you can write that down on your sheet. And finally, forest gnomes get the speak with small beasts feature. So forest gnomes, it seems like, know how to communicate with animals. So you can write that down in your features box so that if you, during your adventure, if our gnome runs into some animals, they can maybe get some clues by talking to them. Now this is us just going through a very specific example, but again, once you pick whatever race of character that you want to do, if you don't want to do a gnome, maybe you want to be an elf. Again, you're just going to go through, you're going to read starting from the traits, and you can write down all this information where it goes on your sheet. So once we've gotten our race figured out, we get to choose our class. So class is going to be what your job is, what you're skilled at doing. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to flip ahead here to the classes section, and you can see that there's a lot of different options here. But what we're going to do is we're going to make ourselves a rogue. So rogues are going to be, they're sneaky. They're kind of like spies and thieves. So we're going to make ourselves a very sneaky little gnome here. So again, like with the races section, you can go ahead and read through more information about the class. You can see maybe more about what they do, what they are capable of, and you can even get some ideas for maybe what the easiest kind of build to make, or what the quickest way to, if you just want to make a quick character, you can just go to quick build and write down all the things they tell you right here. But we're going to quickly go through this whole section. So you're going to start from class features. So your class features, it starts out that you get hit points, which is how many points of damage you can take before you are knocked out. All right, so once you've got your hit points figured out, it's again, you're just going to pretty much just read through your class to see what you're going to write down. So the next thing you're going to be writing down are your proficiencies. Proficiencies are what your character is trained to do. So, for example, the ranger is trained to wear light armor. So we're going to write down light armor in our proficiencies and language box. For the same deal, rangers or rogues are trained in using different types of weapons. So they'll go ahead and write down all the weapons that you can use. And that means, like, when you're doing your adventure, if your rogue comes across a chest with some weapons in it, if they find a hand crossbow, they know how to use that, so they can do that without any problems. And then finally, rogues also get some tool proficiencies, so they're good at using thieves' tools. So that's another thing we're going to write down in our proficiencies and language box. Next, we're going to look at our saving throws. So we'll write down what our saving throws are in our saving throws box.
Right here, so +2 and +2.
Yeah, we'll just add our proficiency bonus, which you can see what the proficiency bonus for your character is going to be, depending on your level, in this box right here. So on level 1, our proficiency bonus is a +2. So we get to write +2 in our proficiency bonus box. And that's what we get to add to anything that we get a bonus to. We get to add +2 to it. And then next you get to pick some skills. Your skills box is right in the middle here. Rogues get to choose 4 from the following list. And I'm not going to read everything on there, but every class you'll get to pick a certain numbers of skills. And you can check them off on the boxes, which ones you want to use. And you'll get to add your proficiency bonus to those. So you'll get to add a +2 to whatever you want your rogue to be good at. So one of the last things we're going to do with this page is you can sort of see you get to start with a certain amount of equipment. So this will show you what you get to pick from. For example, rogues get to pick between having a rapier or a short sword. So then you get to write down in your equipment box all of the equipment that you're going to have to start off with. So if you're in an adventure and you need to know, okay, what weapons do I have? What tools do I have to solve this problem or this puzzle? You'll know it by looking at your equipment box. And we won't write down everything because that's a lot of things to write down, but just so you know, it's all right here. The last thing we're going to do for the class is you're going to look at some of your special abilities. Different classes have different abilities, and it's a lot more reading. So at first level, you don't get to pick a whole lot. But there will be a few things you get to choose. For example, our rogue at first level is going to get expertise. So they get to pick 2 skills to double their proficiency bonus for. So they get to add a +4 to 2 of their skills. And again, it's a lot of reading. And those are all things that you'll write down in your features and traits box where you wrote stuff down for your race. So we got another thing we're going to do here. This is a little bit more optional, but we can also add a background to our character. And you're going to find backgrounds on this page here. And there's a bunch of different backgrounds. This is basically what your character was before they became an adventurer. So if they were a soldier or a criminal or an entertainer. And what we're gonna pick for our rogues, we're gonna pick a sage. So just like everything else, you're gonna read all the information about your background and write down anything that you get for that background. So as a sage, we get proficiencies in 2 more skills. We get to know 2 more languages, and you can find a list of the different languages in this book too. And you get some extra equipment. All right, and so the big thing that we're going to do now is we're going to roll for our ability scores. Now, ability scores are what your character is good at, but more in a broad sense. Like we were talking about our bonuses we're adding for different things. So you got strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And this is going to help you calculate what you get to add to a roll. If your DM says, oh, roll a strength check or roll a constitution check. So when you're recording your ability scores, you're going to start with 4 6-sided dice. For each score, you're going to roll these 4 dice 6 times and write down the 3 highest numbers each time, and then add up those numbers till you get 6 numbers.
3.
So then we'd roll 4 more of those, and whatever the 3 highest numbers are, we'd add them all together. So say we get our first roll of 4 dice, we get a 15. So 15 is one of the numbers we're going to write down. So with that, once you have all 6 of your numbers, you're going to decide where you want to put them. So you can decide, do I want my 15 as my highest one? Do I want to be very smart? Maybe I'll put the 15 in intelligence, or maybe I'll put it in strength. And it's going to depend on what kind of character you want to make, but you get to decide once you have all your numbers, where you're going to put all of your numbers. Once you've got all of your ability scores written down, in the little tiny circle box underneath, you're going to write down the modifier, which is what you're going to add or subtract from your roll. So you can see that on this first page. It's on page 13 of the manual. And you can also look this up as well. A lot of websites will show you it. So example, if we decide we want 15 strength, we'll look at our score mod. If we have a 15 ability score, we get a +2. So if we roll for a strength, we get to add +2 to it.
+2.
And you'll do the same thing for all of your ability scores. Now there's just a couple last minute little tidbits that we're going to do you can do for your character. For example, the whole back side of your sheet here is all of your character information. Like, this is where you're going to put things like their age, their height, weight. You can put a picture of them if you want to draw, or if you want to just tape a little picture of what you think they look like there. And you can write other information about who you think their friends are or what their backstory is. This is all this part is all very optional, but if you want to come up with a fun character backstory, this is where you can store all your notes for that. So then the last 2 things that we're going to mention real quick is, first we're going to mention armor class. Armor class can be a little bit tricky to determine, but this is going to be what your roll has to be to dodge an attack. So say if you have a 10 armor class, a monster has to roll a 10 or higher in order to hit you. So to determine your armor class, there's some notes on this page that'll tell you how to do it. Every character gets at least 10 plus your dexterity modifier. So let's say we decided our dexterity is going to have a +1 to it. So our armor class would be 11. Now you can increase this if your character is wearing armor or if they're carrying a shield. And if you look at the equipment information in the back of the book, it'll tell you how much you get to add to that number depending on what you're wearing. And then generally the very last thing that you'll have to worry about is the name. And we've already got a name for our character. So it looks like we are actually all set. So this character is pretty much all ready to go. We can start right away with an adventure. The very last step that you would do with this is you would talk to your dungeon master about who your character is, and maybe to talk about how you're going to bring your character together into the world that you and the other party members are going to be a part of. But that is all we've got for the pen and paper version of this. We will have a very brief bit just in a minute here where we show you how to do it with an online tool. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments and we will see what we can do. Also, make sure to check out our Discord server. We have a link in our description. If you have questions or if you'd like to connect with other people who would like to play Dungeons & Dragons in this area, please feel free to join in and we'll be happy to see you there.
And just remember, D&D, it may seem like a lot, may be overwhelming, but as you play, it gets easier, and it's a really, really fun game, especially if you are into fantasy and all that good stuff. I enjoy playing it a lot because I get to use my creativity and my imagination, and it's very, very popular. And it doesn't matter who you are in life, everyone plays D&D. It's a known fact.
And again, it does look like a lot of information, but as long as you take it slowly and one step at a time, and as long as you're doing it with other people, if you are having a good time, you can fudge some of the rules here or there. Just make sure you talk to your friends and your group that you're playing with before you fudge any rules, but you can always make sure that you're doing what's most fun for the group as a whole. But thank you guys for watching, and we hope to see you at our Discord server or in other videos that we'll have to share for you.
Have a great day.
Bye.